There we go.
Just do that one.
Good evening, everybody. It is a rainy Friday night here at Howell High School as Manalapan Braves take the trip over to Howell to play the Howell Rebels. A Manalapan Braves team that starts the season 2-3. Howell 0-4. I'm Matthew Kaufman. Grace Andruzzi, Eric Kaufman will be joined by Grace Hoegler in just a couple of moments. But it's really been a tough start for Howell as they've lost tight games. They haven't been blown out yet this year. It's been a tough schedule to start the season. Games they should win, mistakes made late, penalties made late. And it's just really the opportunity Howell has. They come up short every week. For more on that, let's head it over to Grace Hoegler.
It's week 5 of the season as Howell takes on the Manalapan Braves tonight. The question tonight is how well will Egan Nelms be able to move after his ankle sprain last week? The injuries of Brandon Ray and Anthony Rivera have pushed Vin Meehan from QB to running back. Meehan will be an asset tonight, especially with Nelms' injury. Now let's send it back.
Well, we started the season, Vin at our QB1, and after the first 3 weeks, he says to Coach Hill, I'm going to go play running back. I want to give this team the best opportunity to win. So Egan's in that game. He started a few weeks ago. He started last week against Jackson Memorial. He's going to be starting tonight. But again, it's so key about that injury because that's really something that could affect a player, especially the ankle when he's got to run and he's got an offensive line that struggled a little bit. I talked to Egan earlier this week. This is on Sunday. He told me, he goes, I'm on crutches, but you know me, I'm going to play anyway. And that's just the toughness that Egan has, Grace.
Yeah, so basically after dealing with an ankle sprain, it's kind of hard to get back into it, but he's working through it. He's going to be playing tonight, and we're really excited to see what he can do, especially with all the precautions because, it's going to be hard to be playing, especially with the turf being wet because of the horrible weather this week. So we're just really excited to see what he can do, and hopefully the injury does not get worse.
Now, he has practiced this week, which is a good thing because you don't want to go into the tonight's game not having to practice and just really being thrown into it. So, Eric, how does this really affect Howell as an offense tonight?
Well, it affects them with their mobility. They can't as much roll out of the pocket. They have to keep him in as much as a pocket passer as possible. Keep things short. If you want to go long, don't roll him out as much. Try and push the ball downfield. Try and get your run game established early. Get V-hand established early. Maybe use some option plays where Vin steps in a couple and they go no huddle or they go with an empty backfield. Trying to get that will improve their offense and try and get a little bit of rhythm going.
They really have to adjust to his injury because if they want him to play, they got to realize that he can't do everything that he was able to do last week. So they got to figure out if that is a risk they're willing to take, having him play. And if they do want him to play, they have to adjust a couple of their plays, a couple of where the players are going to be to make sure that Egan's injury doesn't get worse because they still have a little bit of a season ahead of them. So
now, the biggest key for that is, especially with Egan, he is able to get out of that pocket so well, and we've seen him escape plays that most players do get sacked. So with this ankle injury, it's not only going to hurt Egan, but it kind of hurts the rest of your offense too, Eric, as you mentioned. You got to keep him in the pocket, and that starts with tonight's offensive line that has been a struggle this year. How does this offensive line protect Egan better tonight?
We've got to protect him, especially off the right side. The right side has been having issues mostly. Mostly the right side is having issues, and that can come into play. He's a lefty quarterback. They're going to be coming from his blind side off of that right side, and that'll be a big key factor. He's not able to roll out as much. Wet turf can aggravate the injury, can result to more injuries with wet turf. It shows in history-wise. Wet turf causes injuries, legs, ankles, knees, and that can be a big part for Egan. It can aggravate him, but the right side keeps collapsing on him, and he has to roll out to that side, especially coming off his blind side. He might get hit a few times.
the defensive line has the opportunity to make this game easier for Egan. So if they allow the other team, the Manalapan team, to make mistakes, if they help them make mistakes, then I think the Rebels have a good chance of winning today.
Now, the other thing is the way that Howell has played this year. They haven't turned the ball over, and that's been the biggest key. You would think the team that hasn't turned the ball over is 0-4. That you look at college, you look at NFL, other high schools, you turn the ball over, usually you're not going to win games, depending how many times. This team doesn't turn the ball over. They don't throw the interceptions. Yes, Egan had an interception against Marlboro, but that wasn't a game-changing interception. That was just a play that was outran by the defender. Great play by the Marlboro defense. But this is a team that they don't put the ball on the ground. They have great players on offense that control the ball well. The problem is they cannot convert on third down. And Eric, that's a huge thing. When you can't convert on third down, you don't move the football and you don't score points.
Yeah, that's a big thing. As we go to like the NFL, Kirk Cousins leads the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns. Daniil Hunter, their defensive line, they lead. He's second in sacks, but they can't get off the field in third down. For their offense gets off the field on third down, and they can't keep the offense keep moving, and the defense can't get off on third down. That's something that we see with this Rebels offense and defense.
Now, I'd much rather be in Jersey than Minnesota because I'll tell you right now, it's pretty cold there, and it's even though it's raining,
Yeah.
I'm still warm. I'm still comfortable. And what Howell does tonight against this Manalapan team, I really think sets the tone for the rest of the season. How it's going to go. You start 0-4. How do you bounce back? Can you win tonight? And does that win carry you through the rest of the season?
And they have a good chance of winning only because we've seen what Manalapan has done their past games. Yes, they're 2-3, but they kind of have like the same abilities in the way that like we've seen them. They've won to like pretty bad teams, I'd say. So I think that they have like the same ability, and it's really going to be a good game tonight to see who's going to win.
Now, let's go to the other side of the ball. We've talked a lot of offense and Egan Nelms and Vin Meehan. Let's go to that defensive side of the ball. A defensive side of the ball that seems they give up the big plays, but when you get early in the game, they're not giving up 35, 40 points in a game. They're keeping it within 20, 21 points. For a team that's 0-4, again, that's a crazy stat if you think about it. How does this defensive line tonight get pressure on Ryan Doherty, the quarterback of the Manalapan Braves, to force him into throwing the mistakes, Eric?
Well, you want to get him to force those mistakes, as you talked about, the pressure. They got to get pressure. They're not giving up a lot of big plays on defense. The Manalapan offense is not known for their big plays. They were a while ago. This is a different team nowadays. But they're not used to pushing the ball downfield. That's something that this Rebels defense has been able to do, keep them the short yardage situations. That's something that they're going to have to do today, and especially maybe get some sacks and push them into long yard situations.
Now let's go to the Manalapan side of the ball with Ryan Doherty, their quarterback. He had one touchdown pass last week, but he also threw the 2 interceptions. And we just mentioned the fact that you force him to throw that football, force the mistakes. For Howell, we just talked about the defense, Eric, and to get the pressure. How does Ryan Doherty tonight kind of get away from those 2 interceptions, forget about those, against a secondary of Howell that has kind of struggled with the deep ball this year?
Yeah, they struggled a little bit with the deep ball, and that could be to multiple different things. Their defensive line's not getting as much pressure. The assignments are not in the right spots, but that shows to a testament of how their secondary works. Their secondary might be playing a certain coverage, and maybe this player's they're dropping their assignments. That could be a big testament why they're giving up those deep balls.
And again, this is a young secondary. A lot of juniors are in this secondary. You got Wanda Jesus, Vin Meehan in that secondary. Those are 2 guys right there that are not, even though, yes, they're juniors, they're 1 year away from being a senior, that's still a young secondary. Again, these guys it's not like the NFL where you play your rookie season and you're an early draft pick and you're playing week 1 of the season or week 2 or 3. These guys really haven't played many varsity games. So to come in, it's a little bit of a struggle. Yes, you have junior year, you have senior year to play, but you got to get the assignments down. You got to figure it out because next year, especially, again, and we heard this statement yesterday, your senior class is only as good as your junior class. And this was told multiple times yesterday because those seniors leave at the end of the season. They're not going to come back next year. They're not playing next year. So your juniors are going to be where the seniors are this year. So how well can the seniors this year lead the rest of this season? And I think that's a big key. Senior leadership is talked about so much just in all high school sports. Any sport really you play, the older guys are always expected to be the leaders.
Yeah, and I think that each team tonight really is to take advantage of their strengths and play on the other team's weaknesses, like you guys said before. Like, everybody has these stats. Everybody knows what the other team has done in the past game. They're doing their research. So if they see what the other team has like a weaker side on about, they can really take advantage of it and try to bring the win for themselves. I think both teams need to keep that in mind tonight.
Now let's go to the Manalapan other key players. Jackson Pfister, Last week, 9 catches, 99 yards, and that also goes on some big plays downfield. But again, the secondary of Howell has struggled. So one of our keys to the game, we'll get to this in a little bit, the fact that you got to keep everything in front of you. And with Jackson Pfister, who's a guy with great speed, we know he's going to catch. He had 9 catches for 99 yards last week against the Raritan Rockets. So this is a game that, again, you expect to not see as much of the run game like we saw a few weeks ago with Matt Cassidy and Marlboro when he ran it down this Howell defense's throats. This is more of a passing team with Ryan Doherty at quarterback and a guy like Jackson Pfister. But then you got the other wide receiver, 3 catches, 87 yards last week, and a touchdown, Jared Barber. How do these wide receivers today for the Braves tonight against Howell win their battles against the secondary, but also be able to amp up the points in a game that it might be a little more of the short passes with the rain?
Well, you talked about the three catches for the 87 yards. Those are a couple big plays. And a secondary that the Rebels have struggled with the deep ball, that can be a big key tonight with the passing game. Stretch the field maybe.
Now let's go to today's must discuss. We mentioned it already, convert on third down. You don't want to get into 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 situations where you're forcing to punt on the next play. You know, your goal obviously convert on third downs. But that also comes with getting a good amount of yards on 1st and 2nd down. If you could get 5-6 yards on 1st down, maybe get a yard or 2 on 2nd down, then you're set up with a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 situation where you can run the ball, you can do a sneak, you can do other options, a screen pass, get him out in space. And a guy that I'll tell you, I went back and watched some film earlier this week, Zach Padilla, who is probably, in my eyes, the best option for the screen. He's quick, he's fast, and you don't know he's coming. You don't see him coming. He comes right around the backfield, and he's the the sneak attack. Yeah, that's what we're going to call this play when we see it later tonight. So I think that the bubble screens, the short yardage plays are going to be the biggest key tonight. And again, that's the way to convert on third down. Get the opportunity for your offensive lineman, get your tight ends involved. The other thing is the tight ends have to block. We saw it a few weeks ago. We saw it last week. Tight ends aren't doing the best of job blocking, and I think that's the key of why the run game might not be as successful and why in the red zone they're not scoring as much. And again, you got to be able to protect Egan tonight. Ankle injury, he has to be in the pocket. You got to give him enough time to throw.
And the weather too, like we have to see, unfortunately, that the weather has been like terrible all week, and that's affecting the turf. And if they play on the turf that already, like you guys said, it's going to lead to higher risk of injuries. So protecting Egan to make sure that he can play for the rest of the season is like the biggest priority right now.
And you look at, again, the weather. It's supposed to rain throughout the night, so we are going to see some rain showers here. You'd think it's April. April showers bring May flowers. I'll tell you, we're way far away from April and May. But, you know, you look at what you see with injuries, especially in snow, in the rain, in the wind. Egan tonight has the opportunity to stay in the pocket, get the short plays, back to the screen passes, right? Vin Meehan is a key weapon tonight. And I'll tell you, he at least has 8, 9, maybe 10 catches in the first half out of the backfield. Because if Egan doesn't have the protection he needs, Vin's going to be that guy to flood out of the backfield. And that's going to be a big factor for Egan, especially when, again, the injury, the offensive line struggles. And you got to get pressure on the quarterback. If you're Howell, you have to be able to get pressure on Ryan Doherty tonight. And if you don't, then he's just going to throw the football down the field. Now, Eric, let's go to what to watch for tonight.
Well, what to watch for will be how they be able to get pressure on their quarterback, Doherty. That'll be a big key. Can they get the line pressure? Can they get pressure with 4 men? Can they, and if not, try and bring in a 5th guy, maybe go to a dime package, switch up your defense a little bit, push your secondary back, push some linebackers into coverage maybe, but they got to get pressure. That's one of the big keys. And another key, Egan Nelms, in the pocket. He has to stay in the pocket in these weather conditions, get the checkdowns, stay short, try and get in that 3rd and 4, maybe 3rd and 3 range, maybe shorter, but stay short, and that'll prove to help them win this game.
Now, you look at, again, the injury, and that's the biggest story of the night, obviously. How well is Egan be able to handle the injury? But the other thing is, Egan's a tough guy. He's not going to come out of the game unless he's probably dragged off that field tonight. And that's the thing. you got to at one point, you got to know, all right, I got to play the rest of this season.
Exactly.
Is it bad enough that I come out of this game, or am I going to be able to handle it, but at the same time, can I play next week?
Yeah,
And
you gotta consider like the long term, and if he gets like injured really badly tonight, then that means that he might not be able to play the rest of the season. So you gotta keep that in mind.
And again, next week, that's senior night. You don't want to miss senior night. So again, you got to think for Egan, how is he going to be able to keep the control and say, hey, I think my time is done. It's hurting. I got to go. Let's go to tonight's keys to the game. We've said it multiple times. Convert on third down. Get pressure on the quarterback. On Manalapan side, let the ball out. Let it down the field. This is a team, again, the secondary has struggled. Give them the opportunity. Let Howell's defense make the play defensively in that secondary. A team that doesn't have a lot of interceptions defensively for the Rebels. Can they get that tonight against Ryan Doherty, who threw 2 picks last week? And then you got to force Egan Downs out of the pocket if you're Manalapan. We've talked so much about how he stays in the pocket for Howell. If you're Manalapan, you want to flood him out. Well, that's going to do it for today's pregame show. Manalapan Braves versus the Howell Rebels. Matthew Kaufman, Grace Andruzzi, Eric Kaufman, Grace Hoegler was with us as well. Thank you all for watching. We will see you 6:30 kickoff, and don't forget, homecoming queen and king will be crowned at halftime tonight. So stay tuned. We'll have that coverage live. 6:30 kickoff from Howell High School.